Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to go on an incredible journey. We're scaling down, way, way down, to explore the fundamental building block of life itself, the cell. Think of it as the ultimate microscopic expedition. Our tour begins now.
So, just look at this for a second. You might think you're looking at a vibrant, distant galaxy, some swirl of cosmic dust and light. But this isn't a picture from a telescope. This is a microscopic image of a single human cell. And the wild part is, you are made of trillions of these tiny, bustling universes. Each one is a complex world all its own. Today, we're taking the guided tour.
Okay, so before we can just dive in, we've got to know the rules of this universe. And that's where cell theory comes in. I mean, this is the absolute foundation for all of biology, a set of principles that really explains what it even means to be alive.
So, what are these rules? First up, everything that's alive, I don't care if it's a single bacterium or a giant blue whale, is made of cells. Simple as that. Number two, you can't break a cell down any further and still have life. The cell is the basic, fundamental unit. And number three, and this is the crucial one, life doesn't just pop out of nowhere. Every single cell comes from another cell that divided. It's an unbroken chain of life stretching back billions of years. You know, this all leads to a really interesting question. If cells are so important, why aren't there like giant single-celled elephants roaming around? Why is there a size limit? Why do they have to be so small? Well, the answer, believe it or not, comes down to a math problem. It's all about surface area versus volume. See, everything a cell needs, food, energy, getting rid of waste, that's all determined by its volume, how much space is inside. But the way it gets all that stuff in and out, that depends entirely on its surface, the cell membrane. And as a cell gets bigger, its volume just explodes way faster than its surface area can keep up. And just to show you how extreme this gets, if you make a cell's radius just 10 times bigger, its volume increases by a staggering 1,000 times. 1,000. There's just no way the surface, the front door, can import enough food or export enough waste for that massive interior. So for a cell, staying small isn't a choice, it's literally a survival strategy. Okay, so we've established that cells have to be small, but that doesn't mean they're all built the same. Generally speaking, they follow one of two basic blueprints. You can basically think of it as the difference between a simple little village and a huge, sprawling metropolis. So on one hand, you've got your prokaryotic cells. These are the simple villages. Their structure is really basic. Their DNA just kind of floats around inside. They don't have all the specialized departments and infrastructure, the organelles, that you find in a big city. But then you have the eukaryotic cells. These are the complex metropolises. They are highly organized, with their DNA tucked away safely in a central city hall or nucleus. And they've got all sorts of organelles acting as factories, power plants, and post offices. And when you look at them side by side, man, the difference is just night and day. That prokaryotic cell on the left, it's kind of like a one-room workshop. Everything it needs is just right there in one space. But look at the eukaryotic cell on the right. That is a full-blown metropolis with different neighborhoods, highways, and a really dense, complex infrastructure. All right, so let's put on our microscopic hard hats and take a tour of this incredible metropolis, the eukaryotic cell. And we're going to start with the typical animal cell. Okay, here's our map for the tour. And you know, every great city needs a command center, right? A place where all the plans are kept and all the big decisions are made. So that's going to be our first stop, right there in the middle. Welcome to the nucleus. This is the cell's city hall. It's protected by this double-layered wall, the nuclear envelope, and inside are the city's most precious documents, the DNA. This genetic blueprint has all the instructions for everything the cell will ever do, from its day-to-day operations to building incredibly complex machinery. But, you know, blueprints sitting in an office are pretty useless if you don't have factories to build things and roads to ship them, right? In the cell, that whole operation is run by something called the endomembrane system. It's this huge connected network of production lines and shipping routes. And this compartmentalization is a massive evolutionary win. It means the cell can have thousands of different chemical reactions happening all at once without them all getting mixed up and causing chaos. Okay, so follow the assembly line. It all kicks off on the factory floor, which is called the rough ER. Here, these little workers, called ribosomes, are busy building the products. In this case, proteins. Then, that brand new protein, gets packed into a shipping container, a vesicle, and it's off to the city's main post office and distribution center, the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi is like a giant Amazon fulfillment center. It sorts the products, puts the finishing touches on them, slaps a shipping label on, and sends them out in a new vesicle to wherever they need to go. Now, a city that's this busy, with all this manufacturing and shipping, it's going to need a ton of energy to keep the lights on. And it needs a solid structure so it doesn't just collapse. So let's check out that essential infrastructure. So, power. A city like this needs power, and lots of it. It gets that energy from specialized power stations, and we're looking at the two main kinds here. On the left, you've got the mitochondrion, which you'll find in an animal cell, and on the right, the chloroplast, which is unique to plant cells. Think of mitochondria as the city's standard power plants. They're running 24/7. They take in fuel, like molecules from the food you eat, and convert it into something called ATP. That's the universal energy currency that powers basically everything in the cell. Chloroplasts, though, those are way different. They're like these super advanced solar farms, and you only find them in plants. They literally capture pure energy from sunlight and use it to make their own fuel. Pretty cool, right? So what stops this whole complex city from just collapsing into a puddle? Well, that's the job of the cytoskeleton. It's this amazing, dynamic network of protein fibers that acts as both the cell's internal scaffolding, giving it shape and support, and its highway system. Remember those little shipping vesicles we were talking about? Well, they don't just float around randomly. They're actually carried along these cytoskeleton highways by tiny little motor proteins, making sure everything gets exactly where it needs to go. Okay, so we've spent a lot of time in the animal cell metropolis, but there's another major type of city we've got to check out. The plant cell. It has a lot of the same stuff, but also some really key features that make it totally unique.
You can spot the differences right away. There are three big ones. First, look outside the main membrane. See that thick, rigid layer? That's a cell wall, made of cellulose. It gives the plant incredible structural strength. Second, you can't miss that giant central vacuole in the middle. It's like a massive water tower and storage tank all in one, and it helps keep the cell firm. And third, of course, you see those little green discs? Those are the chloroplasts, the solar power plants we just talked about.
So, we've seen the individual cities, right? The animal cell, the plant cell. But how do you get from a single city to an entire nation? How do trillions of these things work together to become, a person or a giant redwood tree? Before we answer that, let's do a quick side-by-side comparison. This table really lays it all out. You can see the key differences. Whether or not there's a nucleus, the presence of a cell wall, those unique power sources like chloroplasts. These aren't just small details. They completely define what kind of larger organism, what kind of nation these cells are able to build. So how does it work? How do trillions of tiny cities act like one giant coordinated organism? Well, the answer is communication and connection. Cells are physically linked by these specialized junctions. Think of them as inner-city highways and communication lines. In animal cells, you have things called gap junctions. They're like little tunnels that let neighboring cells share resources and signals directly. In plants, channels called plasmodesmata connect the entire organism. It's this amazing, interconnected network that transforms a collection of individual cities into a single, coordinated nation. We started this tour looking at an image that looked just like a galaxy. And I think we've seen that it really is a universe in miniature. A world of power plants, factories, highways, and communication networks, all humming with life on a scale that's almost impossible to imagine. And it really makes you wonder, as our tools get better and we can peer even deeper, what other incredible new worlds are we going to discover inside the cell next?